Hello everyone, my name is Emma. Today my project here is on the Madrigal. The Madrigal is a style of music that was flourishing during the late Renaissance and early Baroque periods across Europe. Madrigals are typically performed without the accompaniment of traditional musical instruments, so we would consider that a cappella in our modern terminology. Because it is performed vocally, madrigals contain unique literary and thematic composition. Some of the really interesting functions it introduced into music were polyphonic texture and word painting, which we'll talk about later. While the English and Italian schools of madrigal are the most appreciated, we actually have Franco-Flemish musicians to thank for pioneering this style in the late 15th and early 16th century. These Flemish and Franc musicians were foundational to many Italian schools of music, such as the Frutola and the Villota schools. The impact the madrigal had on history is a little bit surprising, due to the fact that it was not as popular as one might think among the common classes in Italian society. It was actually quite contained within aristocratic classes, which is the opposite of how popular music typically disseminates. The nobles who were treated to madrigals found them delightful and gratifying, it is said. And here is a short clip of the Icelandic Downtown Quartet singing an Italian madrigal by Jacques Arcadelt called Il bianco e dolce signo. Italian madrigals were popular in the early to mid-16th century, whereas the madrigals of England came into prominence during the Elizabethan era. Celebrated English madrigalist Thomas Morley directly credits the school's popularity in England to Italian madrigalist Alfonso Ferrabasco, which is kind of shocking due to the fact that Ferrabasco was actually not very influential in the Italian school. Despite his lack of popularity in Italy, his work was widely celebrated in England. Born in 1543 in Rome, Ferrabasco was introduced to madrigals by his father. He would later become one of many foreign musicians to come to the English courts, being really attracted by Henry VIII and Elizabeth and their court specifically. By 1562, it was said he was already receiving a stipend from Queen Elizabeth herself, and it was even rumored to be an English spy, though that is subjective. With musicians like Ferrabasco introducing madrigals to the Elizabethan courts, the style flourished. Part of the reason madrigals became so popular at this time might have had something to do with its secular nature. After the Protestant Reformation, we saw a shift that put the English language as the primary language of the Christian Church over Latin, and the Spanish Armada of 1588 also helped boost the flourishing of the English language in the arts over, say, the traditional form of Italian in a madrigal. In Elizabethan England, the art and science and political spheres all converged together. Thomas Morley was said to have an active role in politics at Elizabeth's court. So it stands to reason that his madrigals would reflect some of the political tensions at the time. With the natural culture moving away from Catholicism, it can only be reasoned that they would gravitate towards a style of secular music. Some other prominent English madrigalists included John Farmer, Thomas Weelkes, John Wilby, William Byrd. And now here is a quick recording of Fair Phyllis by John Farmer from 1599, performed by the SUNY Buffalo Chamber Choir.
Feeding her flock near to the mountainside,
Fair Phyllis saw sitting all alone.
feeding her flock near to the mountainside.
The shepherds knew not, they knew not whither she was gone.
They knew not whither she was gone.
But after her lover,
On Nature's side, up and down, 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 up and down. While she was missing, when he found her, oh, then they fell on kissing, oh, then they fell on kissing, oh, then they fell on kissing, up and down, 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 while she was missing, when he found her, oh, then they fell on kissing, oh, then they fell on kissing, oh, then they fell on kissing.
In order to understand why the madrigal had such a lasting impact on English music, it is essential to look at pieces from the school. John Farmer was an influential English madrigalist during the Elizabethan period. His 1599 madrigal, Fair Phyllis, is a great example of the unique techniques that the genre employed. The secularness of the song can be seen at first glance, with references to Phyllis and her lover, Amyntas. Music associated with the church at this time would never allude to a woman having casual relations with a man she was not married to. And the imagery of Phyllis and Amyntas wandering up and down and fella kissing possibly alludes to a sexual liaison, which, according to Laura Macy in the Journal of Musicology, was not uncommon in madrigals. In the presentation's accompanying recording, we can hear some of the auditory characteristics of madrigals. At the beginning of the piece, the soprano part sings the first line, to mimic Phyllis sitting all alone. The other singing parts come in when the flock is mentioned in the next lyric, making this an excellent example of the word painting technique, where the music literally reflects the lyrics at the time. The song also is a great example of the polyphonic textures, as it has multiple melodies layered together. As the Renaissance period began to wane by the early 17th century, so did the madrigal. Instead of the unaccompanied poetics that defined the madrigal, attention shifted to the grand theatrics of Baroque opera. Although madrigals had faded in popularity during this period, the neoclassical period did see a revival of the English school of the genre. One of these successful efforts to revive madrigals was done by John Emmons in 1741 with the creation of the Madrigal Society in London. This group existed for 200 years, only stopping on account of World War II in 1940. While the madrigal has yet to receive the widespread appreciation like opera, it certainly has stayed in the hearts of music lovers everywhere.